The air in the apartment was thin, tasting of dust and despair. It was a taste 7-year-old Chloe had become intimately familiar with. Their new home was a single room, a former janitor's closet off the main lobby. It was a secret, tenuous arrangement. Chloe's world had shrunk to the faded patterns on the wallpaper and the gnawing emptiness in her belly. Her mother, Alicia, a proud woman whose smile used to light up a room, now moved like a ghost, her face etched with a permanent, weary anxiety. That evening, the anxiety had a sharp, specific focus. They were out of milk. For Chloe, milk was the white magic that made the cheap, generic cereal edible. It was the promise of a full stomach before sleep. "Baby, we just have to wait for tomorrow," Alicia whispered, her voice raspy from a day of scrubbing floors. But Chloe's stomach didn't understand the concept of Friday. It growled a protest, a low, plaintive sound. A fierce, protective love swelled in her small chest. She saw the way her mother's hands trembled. She couldn't fix everything, but she could fix the milk. Her plan was born of a child's logic. In the lobby, she'd often seen a man, Mr. Thorne. He was different. He didn't shuffle in with weary shoulders. He moved with a crisp, clean authority. He never used the creaking main elevator. A private, brass-plated one whisked him directly to the penthouse. Mr. Thorne was rich, a millionaire, and in Chloe's mind, millionaires had everything. Surely he had milk to spare. While her mother was occupied, Chloe slipped out of their little room. She padded across the vast, marble-floored lobby in her worn-out socks. She pressed the single, burnished button next to the private elevator. The doors slid open with a hushed sigh. She stepped inside. There was only one button. PH. She pressed it. The ascent was silent and swift. When the doors opened again, she stepped into another world. An expanse of gleaming floors and floor-to-ceiling windows framing a glittering city skyline. And then he was there. Julian Thorne stood from a sleek sofa, a crystal tumbler in his hand. He was taller than she'd imagined. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice not unkind, but utterly devoid of warmth. Chloe's courage almost failed her. She clutched the hem of her faded Tweety Bird t-shirt. "My name is Chloe," she said, her voice small but clear. "I live downstairs, in the small room." Julian's brow furrowed slightly. He knew of the superintendent's arrangement. He hadn't considered it involving a child. "What can I do for you, Chloe?" he asked, setting his glass down. This was it. Chloe took a deep breath. "Sir," she began, "we have no milk. My mama is very tired, and she can't get any until Friday." She delivered the last line with absolute conviction. "I promise to pay you back when I grow up." Julian Thorne was a man who had built a fortune on spotting opportunity. But he had never been presented with a proposal like this. He was shocked, not by the audacity but by its purity. There was no manipulation, just a stark statement of need, backed by her word. He looked at her, really looked. He saw the neatly braided hair, the clean but threadbare clothes, the eyes that were too old for her face. The silence stretched, thick and heavy. Chloe's hope began to deflate. Then Julian Thorne did something he rarely did. He moved without a calculated plan. He walked to his vast, state-of-the-art kitchen and opened the stainless steel refrigerator. Tucked in the back, nearly forgotten, was a half-gallon of organic milk. He took it out. He brought it to her. "Here," he said, his voice softer now. Chloe's face lit up, a sunrise after a long night. "Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you." She reached for it with both hands. "I won't forget. I promise." She turned to leave. "Chloe." His voice stopped her. "How will you get it back to your mother without her knowing where you got it?" She hadn't thought of that. Her face fell. Another uncalculated decision. "Come on," he said. "I'll walk you down." The millionaire in his $2,000 shoes and the little girl in her worn-out socks rode the private elevator down to the lobby. He walked her to the door of the janitor's closet just as Alicia, frantic with worry, was stepping out. The scene was one of surreal contrasts. Alicia, in her cleaning uniform, face pale with fear, seeing her daughter holding milk, escorted by Julian Thorne. "Chloe, what have you done?" Alicia gasped, pulling her daughter close. Julian spoke calmly. "Mrs. Jenkins, your daughter was concerned about you. She made a very compelling case for a loan." He gestured to the milk. "The terms were quite favorable. She promised to pay me back when she grows up." Julian continued. "I have found that a person's character is the best collateral. Your daughter has exceptional character." He didn't wait for a response. He gave a curt nod and turned, walking back to his elevator. That should have been the end of it. But for Julian Thorne, it was the beginning of an itch he couldn't scratch. The next day, he did something that shocked his staff. He had a proper, one-bedroom apartment on the 3rd floor cleared and furnished. He presented it to Alicia not as charity, but as an advancement. Consider it a corporate housing benefit for a valued employee. Tears streamed down Alicia's face, but they were tears of relief. They moved in that afternoon. But Julian wasn't done. He discovered Alicia had a talent for bookkeeping. He offered to pay for her to get certified. He started to take an interest in Chloe's education. A set of encyclopedias appeared, then a sturdy desk. Chloe took her own promise with the utmost seriousness. She started a payment jar, decorating an old mayonnaise jar with glitter. Every coin she found went into it. She would show it to him during his visits. "It's growing, Mr. Thorne," she'd say. He would look at the jar, at the few dollars and handful of change, and see it as the most valuable asset in his entire portfolio. Years turned. The little girl grew into a sharp, driven young woman. Julian challenged her, debated with her, and guided her. The night before she left for Stanford, Julian invited Chloe and her mother to the penthouse for dinner. After dinner, he led Chloe to the vast window. "You're ready," he said simply. Chloe smiled. "I am, and I haven't forgotten my debt." She pulled out a thick envelope. Inside was a promissory note for the exact value of 1/2 gallon of organic milk, plus interest. The total came to $4.37. But attached was a second document, a business plan for a non-profit foundation called the Promissory Note. Its mission was to provide microloans and mentorship, based not on credit history, but on character and promise. Tears welled in Julian Thorne's eyes. He looked from the $4.37 note to the multi-million-dollar vision. "This," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "this is the payment I was waiting for." Chloe shook her head, a gentle, knowing smile on her face. "No, Mr. Thorne, the milk was just the beginning. This," she gestured to the business plan, "is the interest. The principal was your faith, and that is a debt I can never fully repay. But I will spend the rest of my life trying." In that moment, the millionaire and the young woman stood as equals. The story that had begun with a simple, desperate request had come full circle. It was never really about the milk. It was about a promise made in the dark and the shocking, transformative power of honoring it. He had given her milk. She had, in return, given him back his humanity. And in the end, they had both grown rich beyond measure.